Can I show y'all something? I tried to present this to my psychiatrist. She didn't think I was crazy enough. So I want to show y'all something, man. Let me know what you think. So right here, I have what I call my theory of measurement in order to calculate a particular verse in the Bible. What verse am I talking about? But first, let me tell you, I got this idea from the Chosen One prophecy that is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It says the Chosen Ones wouldn't know anything until they know of the three books. But if you ever look it up, they don't never have an idea what the three books are. I've been postulating based on the words of Yahshua that the first and the last are intertwined, the Alpha and the Omega. And this is brought to you in one particular verse, Matthew 24, verse 37. What is that verse? It says that the days of Noah, the dates associated with Noah and the flood, are as the coming of the Son of Man. These dates have unknown values. So I put together two systems, and one of the systems comes up with the same date, August the 3rd, and I have August the 3rd, 2036. I'll get to this one shortly. What I employed is a method of interpolation, where we estimate values, future values, based off past values that we have, and we have them according to the Bible. Well, I have 7 dates here, 211, 217, on down to 227. So what we want to do is use what's called reverse time symmetry, or we can call it, we're going to use mirror symmetry. We're going to quantize the mirroring frequencies between the known values of these sets. And how do we do that? We do that through this equation. G1 stands for the first date associated with the days of Noah. G7 is the last date. We simply subtract them, and then we get our interpolator, which is 16. It is going to be our measuring device, and this is the symbol for measuring device right here. We're going to add this to the function of all of these. G is for Genesis, and N is for the total sum of the numbers that are combined. So we're just adding the meta device to each one of these numbers. When we do that, here it is right here, we get the unknown values. So we get these dates right here. So 16 days added to the first date makes the first or the last become the first. In a sense, this is like reverse time symmetry, right? So now we have 7 dates here, 217, 311, 413, on down to 313. Now, if this was correct, then we would be able to associate each one of these dates with an event in a future, a cosmological event as described when they say the trumpets are blown. But we don't have the year. We come up with the year by another method, connecting it to the book of Daniel, chapter 9:25. So I broke that down fairly simple. The main thing I want to focus on is August the 3rd. Now let's go over here to another system. We have Daniel chapter 9. Verse 25. But what are we doing here? What I'm trying to develop is an auto-regressive models with a time series. And what I'm doing is I'm postulating that these ages of death, Noah is still alive in the book of Genesis chapter 5 in particularly. So these are the ages right here. I simply rotated the numbers. You see 930, 912. The numbers I really want you to focus on is a 666 and a 777. What you see here, 666, 777. We rotate the numbers. Now, I'm postulating that these numbers correspond to the prophecy, but I would need some supporting evidence. I would need some events that actually have been documented in time in order to come up with the supporting evidence as empirical evidence and not just supporting evidence. So our focal point here is going to be the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 25. But it's also what is known in history is two dates in particular. There's a war that happens in 608 BCE. 70 years later, in 538 BCE, King Cyrus II put out a decree that releases the Jews and restore them back to Jerusalem, and they start rebuilding Jerusalem and all this other stuff. This is supposed to be 490 years from the date of this prophecy, which they connects to the 70 weeks, where they simply times 70 times 7. But here's another way to look at this. What I'm saying is that weeks in this prophecy is a misinterpretation for cycles. And where it says 7 years and 62 weeks, where it says 7 weeks and 62 weeks, that's 7 years and 62 years. And I'm going to show you how. First, we need to find a future event in our model that corresponds to Daniel 9. In it, it says what will happen. Jerusalem will be restored and rebuilt by the people, and a wall in a street is going to be rebuilt. This is particularly mentioned as a hint or a clue. And the date that I have associated with this is 6667, which you'll find right here, right? So we have one of our dates marked off right here. So what happens on this day? On this day, the armies are surrounding the holy city, where the object that causes the desolation of isolation is. And it's there to this day. In a certain place in the holy city, the Jews are not allowed to pray there. In fact, when the Jordanian Muslims had control of it, Practically no Jews were allowed to pray in that area. So let's just say 666 is our date, our starting date, that we're our focal point to our hyperbola of future events and past events, positive and negative events, and we're going to bring it all together. It mentions from this point that there's a period of 7 years. So we want to find a reference in this which could correspond or connect to 7 years. Well, that's going to be right here. That's going to be 2,597 days. This is approximately 7 years, 1 month, and 12 days from this day. And 7 years, 1 month, and 12 days is going to be July 18, 1974. Well, what happened on this day? I can't pronounce it. I think it's Pewgate, Hot Tail something Street, and the Western Wall Plaza, the Western Wall Plaza, yes, was completed around this time. And I actually have something that says it was completed at this time right here. So then we're going to go 62 years further. 62 years further taking in account of leap years, which is 15 leap years and 62 years. So we just simply add 15 days to this date. So 62 years from here and 15 days from here is going to be August the 3rd, 2036, which is also the fourth date from our time series in our other model that we have employed here. Now, here's the interesting thing about this, right? So we take 1967, right? And let's say we want to find a connection between two periods when Jerusalem is restored to the people. So we simply, because we're looking at this date, which happened in 538 BCE, some says 539, when King Cyrus made a decree to restore the people. So since BCE goes in reverse, we're going to add 538 to 1967. When we do that, we get 2,505 years. Coincidentally, that so happens to be right here. I can keep going back and back and back in our time series and auto-regressive models to retrodict events in the Bible and other religions based upon this model, and also future events like the destruction of Israel. Now, if you go and look in 2036, what happens in the sky concerning blood moons and things of that nature, and Saiska and Opapus 99942, which will be a serpent coming in the sky, you will see this connects to each one of the blowing trumpets.